We're back for more. It's week 5 happy hour presented by Deschutes. And I think once again, I'm drinking alone. Yogs, is that
I
what's
got
happening?
I got a lot in here, gearing up, gearing up.
I like that. Cheers to all of you at home who have been following us along every week. Glad you're back. We got a lot to get to, Yogs, as we always do. But let's just start with the fact that we've got 4 Pac-12 teams ranked in the top 15. Feels good.
It feels good. Feels good when you look at the rest of the top 15. You're like, oh, pretty good. SEC's got 5. You're always gonna have a bonus one for them. ACC 2, Big 12 1, and the Big 10 3. And I'm not quite convinced Michigan is better than any of the teams in the top 15 from this league. And I think there's some teams knocking on the door that I'm going to get into here in a little bit.
Okay, good. Well, I look forward to that. And I just, again, because I feel like every week we could go 800 different directions. It's hard to know where to start. So I'm going to shout out our director of social media, Danny Ferris, who said, hey, let's focus this a little bit. Let's start with the buzz, then we'll go to the buzz kill and we'll move on from there. So what's got you buzzing on this Deschutes happy hour, Yogs, late September?
Well, I think it's what you just referenced, and it goes a little further. We've talked about the AP poll, and again, we're here to help you. We're here to help, not here to hate. But because of the non-conference slate, whether it's Oregon State beating Boise State and Fresno State, or whether it's Washington State putting it on Wisconsin, I mean, we've got a bunch of games you can go around. It feels like the narrative entering conference play, and now a week into it, is the strongest it's been in a long time. Now, for our friends in the South, I welcome you to conference play. I know you still haven't experienced that, but it's about to come. It's really fun. It's more competitive than you think. And then for us, coming off of what you and I were at, Oregon State, SC, right? We're talking about top 6 SC, Oregon State, who I think should be a top 25 team. That was a great game with 2 teams that could find their way to Vegas. It wasn't SC totally imploding, and it wasn't Oregon State playing out of their mind. So I say that because it is real. And you hear the national narrative, and it's like depth in the Pac-12, a lot of talented teams. And I think because of what we did in the non-conference, the league's gaining a lot more respect. And I really appreciate that, because usually by now, like last year, we had 2 teams, right? It was Oregon, UCLA. And we were kind of throwing a party by ourselves. Now we're at the door, right? You're playing bouncer, actually. Like, yeah, you come on in from Connecticut if you want it, from Bristol. Hey, you guys down the road in LA and Pico on Fox, you want to come on through, talk about teams of the Pac, come on through. So I like that for us nationally.
The beer's cold here. Come on in, everybody. Yeah. Well, I want to follow up on just the game that we got to see and the experience that we had in Corvallis this weekend, because for every reason that was special. And I think, we come in top 2 scoring offenses in the Pac-12. I think everybody anticipated. Nick Aliotti talked about it. He was like, if you like offense, this is the game for you. It was going to be, they were going to need a new scoreboard after all the scoring that was going on. And instead, it was all about the defenses. And hat tip, cheers to you, Alex Grinch and Trent Bray. Just 2 masterful plans by the defensive coordinators on both sides for what their teams were able to do on Saturday night. And I think let's just start with the fact that USC's offense, it's all we've been talking about. How do you slow them down? How do you stop them? How do you hope to contain them? They had 5 punts coming into that game total in 3 games. And then the storyline, though, with USC and the reason they won that game was their defense. 4 interceptions. Have you ever heard of, I can't remember, 14 takeaways and no turnovers for a team at this point in the season. I can't remember ever hearing about a team that's doing what USC is doing in regard to that, Yogs.
Yeah, and especially when you think about coming into the season, and Lincoln Riley talked to you about it after the game. It's like so many people say so many things about our defense, and it was a gutsy, gritty, and talented performance, right? Yeah. Like, it wasn't perfect. Like, I think as we watched the game and called it, you're like, Oregon State can move the ball on the ground, but then SC would get a stop and force a long 3rd down. They would create a turnover. They made it challenging enough, whether they were moving guys or stemming guys or dropping guys. And Eric Gentry, to me, I voted for him for Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week because of his activity at the line of scrimmage, stopping the run, dropping into coverage, just making it challenging for Chance Nolan in that offense. And you're right.
Wingspan.
7'1", 0.25, right? Like, just imagine, like, that's so massive. So mad props to your point for what SC did defensively. And that is a game. And I know you had the greatest view, you and Aliotti and Nigel, just kind of sitting there watching it. That could have been a game where they self-destructed on the road, first time, any type of adversity. And they had adversity the whole game. I mean, from the jump.
Yeah.
And I just love how they hung. And that's why I like, of course, the D coordinators that you referenced, but Alex French, or excuse me, Lincoln Riley, I give him so much credit for getting that team to hang together, right? This is a team full of new faces, huge names, only had success. Jordan Addison, this dude didn't get the ball. Like, he could have easily been frustrated. I played with Blitnikoff winners, Ash. When they don't get the ball, like, there's frustration.
Yeah.
He didn't hang his head. He wasn't pointing at anybody, and he ran a perfect route to win the game, and a ball that he should have never gotten thrown to him. And that, to me, spoke volumes. So I was stoked on that, and I'm really excited for Lincoln Riley and the job he did. Heck, even Dan Lanning in terms of keeping guys together on the road.
You talk about that just dime from Caleb Williams to Jordan Addison, and every time I watch it, I think it's going to get batted down and the game's going to be over. Like, I've watched that replay however many times, but I think the play, at least when you're talking about USC's offense, that we have to talk about. So in addition to the Bush push now, USC fans have the Nilon nudge. 4th and 6, I think, on like their own 43-yard line. USC has the ball. The time's winding down. They need to score. Caleb Williams, and I'm standing like right there because we're getting ready for our post-game interview, and we don't know who we're going to, whether it's going to be Jonathan Smith or Lincoln Riley. I'm getting ready for both. And Caleb Williams like gets stuffed, and I'm watching and thinking, okay, this thing is over. And then out of nowhere, Brett Nilon just comes, like the 6-year-old lineman just comes and he's like, no, we're not done yet. And he just pushes him past the first down marker. You and Ted obviously called it. Like, what did you see in real time as that played out? Because that was, I mean, that saved the game.
Oh, well, it was an effort play. And if you study SC, to me, there aren't a lot of loafs, right? There's not a lot of, the ball's all the way down there, so I'll just kind of jog my way there. Whether it's the first quarter or the game on the line, as you referenced. And that's what you saw with a guy who's been around a long time. And he had to be going at full speed, because if not, the play might be blown dead for forward progress. You know, Jonathan Smith referenced it earlier this week in his press conference, because there's a lot of Oregon State fans that are like, hey, they should have blown that play dead. And I think when you watch it, even if you slow it down, like, nobody really has a problem with it, even on the coaching staff, of like, yeah, I get it. Like, and I say that because Brett Nilon had to be sprinting. And he did, and it was on. And I know Leinart and Reggie, wherever they were fired up.
They were drinking some Deschutes. Cheers in that. There's no question.
Cheers to that. Like, your dad, the Notre Dame fan, he had massive flashbacks, I'm sure, struggling
Yes.
there. But that's what championship teams are made of, you know. And again, I think Oregon State can find their way to Vegas. I think they're that talented. We have them this weekend against Utah. But SC, they're going to lean on this when they go to Utah in 3 weeks. They're going to have to, because it was hostile. It was challenging. They didn't play their best. I think part of that was because of Oregon State's game plan. But when they needed to, like at the end, they hung around enough to keep it close. And they had the plays. Like, you have to say, heck of a job, man.
Yeah.
And that play's going to go down in their history as one of the most dynamic ones.
And especially, we'll see how their season plays out. But yeah, that's going to be one that we bookmark and come back to. There's no question about it. And just to put a bow on that thought, Lincoln Riley told us during the week, he said, this trip is going to test our togetherness. Like, it's been all, sunshine and rainbows and ice cream up to this point for the most part. And this is going to be the trip that really tests us. And it did. And they passed another huge test. So excited to talk. And we'll talk a little bit about their matchup with Utah in just a little bit that you guys will be calling. But the last thing that I got to say, I got to just tip my hat and give all the Deschutes, like Squeezy Rider, player of the week, every single accolade. Jaden Ott, you are the freaking man. There's so many things that we can talk about, but the Cal running back, the true freshman, just unbelievable to watch against Arizona and everything that he did on Saturday. It was, we had our eye on it from Corvallis, and it was just like, they're going to give it to him again from the second play from scrimmage, Cal's first possession. He's just gone for 72 yards. It was special. 274 yards when all was said and done. 3 touchdowns on 19 carries, and the Bears put up 49 points. It was just the medicine that they needed after that tough loss at Notre Dame. And shout out to the offensive line. I think Justin Wilcox shuffled some things over there, and they played a lot better. And it paved the way for what Ott did. It was fun to watch, Yogs.
Oh yeah, they need a couple cases. Like, they get the cases this week of Deschutes for sure. Not only the reshuffling, but they were challenged. Like, if you look at their QB, Jack Plummer, in UNLV, Notre Dame combined, he was hit 26 times. 26 times he was hit. I don't think he was sacked once in the game against Arizona. And the game was back and forth. Like you go to halftime and you're like, dude, Arizona's moving the ball. Like, what is Cal offensively? What adjustments we made in the second half? And Bill Musgrave, Angus McClure, the OC and O-line coach, respectively, for the Bears. That was impressive. Put a true freshman in at guard. They're a team that should be undefeated, right? We got into that last week. So now we look at them at 3-1 against another 3-1 team. This is an atmosphere on Saturday with Washington State on homecoming, I believe, hosting Cal. Two teams that could easily be undefeated, two young coaches, defensive-minded guys. But to your point, we've got the next star in this league. And I think that's always fun early in the year when you can find out, right? We heard about it in training camp. He'll probably be the guy, get a chance to be the guy. And then you see it and it's like, oh, snap.
Oh,
okay. Welcome to national discussion,
Yeah. No, everybody knows his name now, or they at least should. Yeah, I think he set the Pac-12 record for rushing yards in a game by a freshman. Jamar Jefferson held that record before him. And Shane Vereen, I loved what he said on Pac-12 After Dark. He said, yeah, he's better than me. He's better than me. So if that's the case, he's got a pretty good career ahead of him. There's no question about that, because Shane's pretty good
for that Super Bowl right there.
Exactly. Okay, what's the buzzkill, Yogs? What do you got for me this week?
Well, there's a couple roads we can go down, but I'm going to go down the one that you'll probably go down as well, and it's season-ending injuries. Brant Kuithe. I mean, this is one of the most explosive players in the country. This is a guy who came back for this season for the unfinished business, which was Utah taking a run at the playoff, winning a Rose Bowl, and then EJ Smith. You saw those. That just happened moments ago. Right here we are on Tuesday afternoon. He's done for the season, and huge blows to this team. So that to me that's the worst part of the game when you see guys done for the year.
And that's exactly, I'll just co-sign +1 all of that. It happens every year. It happens every week. There are stars and even non-stars it's all part of the game. Like, that's kind of what you're signing up for when you go play football. But seeing Brant Kuithe on crutches on the sideline at ASU on Saturday night, like that image just, it hurts your heart. And he's certainly a, huge, you can't understate how much he means to Andy Ludwig's offense. Cam Rising's favorite target so far this year, and everything that they've been able to do with that tight end position. It's a huge loss. He qualifies for a redshirt season. So theoretically he could be back next year, but I know he tested the NFL waters a year ago and decided to come back. So who knows what he will decide. But most importantly, I hope he has a full recovery. And same with Smith. It's just Stanford. It was not news that they could afford to kind of have right now to lose one of their playmakers on offense with what they've got coming up and the offensive struggles that they've had to kind of get things going. So our obviously thoughts with them. And that is always the biggest buzzkill to me, is just when you have players and everything is going one way, and then those season ending injuries, they are the ultimate buzzkill. All right. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Move on for Brant Kuithe, just because we're doing this game. He's 148 receptions. Like you start looking at his numbers and you're just like, whoa, like this is crazy. And then the matchup issues that he has, like that's as big of a loss offensively as we've seen in a while in this league, right? Like Brett Johnson was the biggest one defensively, right? When he was lost in training camp, but he didn't play last year, right? Brant Kuithe was the dude last year. He's the dude again this year. I'm looking forward to watching Dalton Kincaid, the rest of this tight end core. Like Utah, they've replaced guys in the past. This is a huge one. What's their answer for him? Like, who's the guy when they have a gotta have it type play? Because they're going to be tested against what I think we could say now is top 2 secondary in the league.
Yep.
In Oregon State after what they did last weekend. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to watching, but it's heartbreaking to see like one of the elites.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. It's disappointing, and your heart goes out to them. And Oregon State, meanwhile, they didn't have their top tight end target, a guy who's a huge weapon in Luke Musgrave, and likely won't for at least the foreseeable future. So but that's what we said. I mean, who was it at the UCLA meetings that told us it's not long before your 3s become 2s and your 2s become 1s. Like, that's just all part of it. So it's about the depth and making sure that whoever the next guy up, like, it's a cliche, but there's a reason that coaches say it all the time, because it is next man up. I gotta say my favorite, I always like being able to talk about my favorite off-field moment. And you mentioned we had good seats. Like I think we were blocking you. So I'm sure anybody who saw the game at Reser Stadium knew the storyline. There's massive reconstruction going on. So only one half of the stadium was open. So there's 26,000 fans there. The loudest 26,000 fans I have ever heard, by the way. But the press box side was wide open. And so Nick and Nigel and I got to sit like right below you and Ted. And it was like we were at a concert. It was like everyone was just there for us. And we were like sitting there watching this concert. It was unbelievable. But the best part was turning around and seeing you. Like, I would love to know how many calories you burn calling a game, Yogi, because you were like, it's like you were playing. And then you've got Ted, you pan over like 8 feet and you see Ted, like the professor, just like sitting there, like really calling the game. And that was one of my favorite moments. I've seen you guys obviously in press boxes calling games, but that was the first time I actually got to hang out for an extended amount of time near you guys. And it was awesome. I loved it.
Thank you. It was fun because, usually press boxes are open, the windows are wide open, but this is, there's kind of like, think of like a big crates, cubicles, and they've got these sliding windows. And I'm a stander. I've sat for one game. It was early on when Ted and I started working together, and I was like, I can't sit. Like, I will lose my, like, think about like your kid, like, hey, sit for 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Well, something fun's happening. You got 30 seconds, right? I can't sit at all. So I'm moving, I'm grabbing them, I'm tugging on Sam Polis, I'm punching him as the game goes on. And because of the way the windows were, I had to channel my inner Aliotti and Nigel and get into like my coach stance, because you have to bend down. So I put my hands on my knees, bend down, kind of look. And it was so fun. And it felt like, and I haven't listened back to it, but when you talk to like members of our crew, and I've heard from a bunch of people that watched it, appreciate that. Every snap felt like it mattered.
Yeah.
Like it felt like Nigel, what do you say, heavyweight bout. Like it felt like a championship game. And it was like, it was good football. Like there weren't a lot of penalties. Nobody played sloppy. Like I get it, Caleb was off in that regard, but I think part of it was the plan they had. So anyway, thanks for watching. It was fun to watch you guys kind of eat your popcorn and hang out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I felt bad because I'm like, are we at one point somebody came over and they were like, hey, can you guys just like either move over to the side or keep it down a little bit? Like there's people actually doing work right behind you. And then we had, all the coordinators are in the boxes next to you guys. So everybody was right there. It was cool. And they are always so good to us every time we go to Corvallis. I just love the Beaver Athletic staff and the fans. They're fantastic. So disappointing outcome for them, no doubt, but there's a lot more ahead for that Oregon State team. You can feel it. And we saw it in person on Saturday. Okay. So as we wrap up, the storyline or the thing that you're most looking forward to seeing this weekend, and I'm just going to put out there, you mentioned Washington State. I cannot wait to watch that one. That's on our air, but Washington, UCLA, we get a Friday night game, 2 undefeated teams. And I loved what I think you tweeted out yesterday. It's like all gas, no brakes for Michael Penix and this Washington offense. And I just think, and I would love to ask you about this, but we need to like really just drink all the squeezy rider to shoots for Ryan Grubb, the offensive coordinator there. He's a master. It's like he just pulls every string at the exact right time. And that thing it's beauty to watch. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep it going.
Yeah, well, look, I think to be fair to our friends in the AP, like there's a world where they're 6 and SC is 15 or whatever it is. Like for what they've put on the field, like it's as impressive.
Yeah.
You could argue more impressive. Granted, they don't have any common opponents yet other than Stanford, right? And they both beat Stanford pretty handily. But I think Washington is for real. Let's just talk about what you referenced. They're taking shots all the time. It's like Stanford, when they had Christian, it felt like the field was tilted and he was like running downhill at you. It feels as though Michael Penix and these wideouts are just running downhill and they're like, you just have to deal with it, right? Like, and they're in control when they're doing that. You look at that, they haven't allowed a sack with Michael Penix Jr. at the quarterback. They had 8 sacks against Stanford. Now I get it, Stanford's running the slow mesh and there's some opportunities for that based on scheme, but whether it's Braylon Trice or ZTF, like guys are coming off the edge humming. This was the question mark. Defensive front 7. Can they stop anybody? Remember, they lost one of their starters who's now at Oregon, interior defensive lineman. Right. So you're wondering, who are the guys there? That's their issue. Kind of like we wondered about SC. They've got dudes. And the thing I keep coming back to, we'll have a graphic in our game, Ash. When you look at the contenders right now, let's just talk about ranked teams. I think Oregon State's a contender. I think UCLA is a contender because it's so early. But if you look at the ranked teams, who do they all miss on the schedule, right? The north-south while like the divisions may not remain in terms of title appearance in Vegas, the scheduling of the division still remains. So UW misses Utah and SC. Oregon State played SC and they play Utah back-to-back weeks. Like, if I'm punching a ticket to Vegas today for somebody, I'm saying, kind of believe in Washington. Now, they haven't left Seattle. They haven't had adversity. They haven't really been tested away. So they've got stuff to prove. But my point is, like, look out. Like, Heisman candidate quarterback, check. Talented receiver, check. Defense, they've proven they could rush. Or Stanford had both tackles gone. Like, there's issues there, and they have to prove it. But this is going to be fun. And then you look at the game on Friday night. UCLA's interior defensive tackles, they're going to be out 1, 2, maybe 3. See what happens as the week goes on a short week. Offensively, UCLA's got to score. And I think they will. Like, Zach Charbonnet's best running back in our league. They've got skilled players that can run downfield. Kaz Allen, Cam Brown, Jake Bobo, back-to-back weeks. He's elevated. But this is going to be a true test for both of these teams. And this is what I'm stoked about on Friday night, at least.
Yeah, it'll be, we always love Friday night games are fun because you get to kind of just sit back and take them in ahead of a big Saturday. So with that, is it fair to say, is Washington the team that you believe in most right now? Like, if you had to if the season ended today, is this a team that you would go with?
It's really hard. Like, I'm like talking myself through it. Like, I watch Utah, and their defense is so much better than it was in week 1. Offensively, they just lost their best player, at least outside of Cam Rising. Right? You look at SC, and they dealt with adversity, they managed it, but now there's a blueprint on how to play them.
Mm-hmm.
How do they deal with that? It's hard to pick against Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison and Travis Dye and those weapons that they have. I look at Oregon, and man, they just keep coming. Like, this offense over 600 yards. But yeah, I think I would. I think if you were like, what do you believe in the most right now? I'd probably go UW, knowing they haven't left home, knowing it hasn't been that hard, but I have to go with what my eyes tell me. And I would go with that heading into, this Friday night clash they have.
I love it. And I also am just realizing, like, we've gone way over the time that we're supposed to go, but we didn't even talk about Oregon and what they were able to do on the Palouse. Like, that deserves a whole other social happy hour. And we'll dive into the Ducks more next week.
34-22. Can we just say that? 34-22. And you're thinking, change the channel. Let's go check out that
it's over.
Game. I'm telling you, Dan Lanning, like all of the new coaches, this league should be stoked. Dan Lanning, Lincoln Riley. We saw Jake Dickert in the game. Kalen DeBoer referenced what he did. Then you add in Jonathan Smith. We know what Kyle Whittingham is like. The coaching depth in this league is pretty impressive. Like, I get what's going on.
I've been covering this league for over 10 years now. We've never had, like, top to bottom, every single coach, when you look around, and obviously ASU, we're not sure who's going to be taken over there, but all of the current full-time head coaches, it is impressive to see what everybody's done. And you talk about the 4 new ones, and it's
totally
what makes it fun every week.
Like Arizona, Colorado. Like, you think it's going to be Arizona all day long just based on what they've performed. How does Carl Durrell get his team motivated?
Yeah.
Going to start the freshman again, first road game. Like, there's just interesting storylines. And I think, like, if we circle back to the very beginning, like, I can look at every game in our entire slate this week, and I'm not like, oh, no storylines there. Right? Like, look at Colorado, Arizona. If Arizona can win, they're hosting Oregon next weekend on the Pac-12, or the weekend after that on the Pac-12 Networks. If Oregon can beat Stanford, right, other teams are going to lose. They're a top 10 team. Like, it's just going to be epic at 6:00 in Tucson. Like, the storylines are building, and I like it that we have some friends from around the country that want to come into the party now here on the West Coast, where it's 80 degrees and sunny. It's perfect out here. Come on through. Ashley will let you through the door, give you a little wristband, stamp your wrist. But if you leave, I don't know if we'll let you back. Okay. If you leave,
you get one entry. You get one ticket to entry. Oh, I'm excited. We got another big triple header coming this way this weekend. So it starts with Oregon State, Utah, which you'll be calling, then Cal Washington State, which we talked about. And then I'll be in Tucson for that Colorado Arizona matchup in the nightcap, and our coverage from Tucson. Let me make sure I get this right. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific with tailgate. So we'll be there all day long. It'll be awesome. So safe travels to you, Yogs. Same time, same place next week. I'm just going to keep drinking by myself here. Salud. Thanks for joining us for happy hour, everybody.
Love you.